Hi, you've reached the McPherson family. Please leave a message. Thank you.
Hi, Mom and Dad. It's me.
Hi, I'm Danica, and I'll be talking about editing, which is the technique and practice of assembling shots in a coherent sequence in order to convey emotion.
I'm Ryder, and I'm going to focus on cinematography, which is the science behind the art of motion picture photography. Cinematography subconsciously does work to reinforce the narrative and provide an emotional viewing experience for the audience. It functions mainly through camera movements and angles to thoroughly immerse the viewers in the world in which the movie takes place.
Hi, I'm Alana. I'll be talking about mise-en-scène. Mise-en-scène is a representation of space in film. This refers to the places and objects in a film which can be manipulated through camera placement and lenses. This includes lighting, decor, costumes, etc., all of which greatly affect the mood or relationships between elements in the diegetic world of the film.
Hi, I'm Maris, and I'm focusing on sound, which includes any noise heard in a film. Sound is used to convey emotion and provide a realistic element to the audience.
The film we looked at, Lady Bird, directed by Greta Gerwig, portrays a complicated mother-daughter bond amidst the teenage life struggles of Christine McPherson, Lady Bird, as she lives in Sacramento, California in 2002. Throughout the film, Christine argues with her mother about her ambitions to get out of California, and after many tumultuous events throughout the film, moves to New York for college. In the final scene, we see Christine, after a crazy night of drinking, leaving her mom a nostalgic and apologetic voicemail that concludes this emotional narrative.
Dad, this is more for Mom. Hey, Mom. Did you feel emotional the first time that you drove in Sacramento?
So in the first shot, Christine is framed alone to reiterate the feeling of isolation the character has calling her parents at home.
Okay, so the editing in this first shot is the longest of the final scene because it allows time to set the overarching action, which is the phone call, see her current emotions as well as her current physical state, which was worn out, and establish her environment so the following frames have an immediate contrast and therefore cohesion within themselves.
In this scene on screen, we just see Christine alone standing outside of a church. She's calling her parents and she's wearing the clothes that she wore in the previous scene from the night before. She has mascara on her face from crying, and her hair is just the same as it has been throughout the film. It's still the pink short hair, so that indicates that not very much time has passed and she's moved to New York.
So in this scene, we can hear Christine leaving a message to her mom on her cell phone. This is where her monologue begins. We can also hear music and asynchronous city traffic noise, both faintly playing in the background, and we can also hear the noise of Christine scraping her foot against the ground.
I did, and I wanted to tell you, but we weren't really talking when it happened. All those Bens I've known my whole life, and stores, and the whole thing.
So this montage of Christine driving and the tracking shots from the car showing Sacramento romanticizes the mundanity of her hometown. We see a somewhat dreary day with fog in the sky, but the tracking shots of sunshine filtered through warm light make it beautiful. The car and the diner and the tracking shots of the parks downtown also allude to Christine's feelings of guilt and nostalgia with regard to her home and family, because these are some places that Christine has visited throughout the course of the film, so the audience feels attached to them.
This scene uses extreme short takes and still frames. The editing paints a picture of Sacramento like the audience hasn't seen it before. This reflects Christine's new perspective about her hometown. Then the abrupt transitions between frames is carried throughout the film, but is especially apparent in the final scene when there are quick flashes of almost complete stillness. The quick transitions added visual tension, which directly reflected the character's tense relationship. However, he interspersed movement in some of the frames with either tracking shots or subtle object movements to hold visual interest and bolster variety.
Throughout this montage, we just see a lot of scenes of just like random places in Christine's hometown, Sacramento. These places are very mundane, just storefronts, old businesses, restaurants. This paints a light of Sacramento that gives it like a very familiar feel to the audience because it shows parts of Sacramento that aren't like touristy or like places that you wouldn't really know unless you lived there, showing that Christine feels as though it is like her hometown, whereas throughout the whole film she's been kind of fighting against it and talks about how she hates Sacramento and doesn't ever want to live there. The warmer lighting throughout all these clips shows that it's like very youthful and happy. Slightly grainy quality of the film imitates Super 16 film stock, which the director Greta Gerwig wanted to use but couldn't because of budget constraints. This grainy quality also adds to the story and the world of the film, which is set in 2002, making it seem like it could have possibly been filmed during this time when film technology was less advanced and images were slightly grainy when they were filmed.
Okay, so now that the screen has changed to show her past in Sacramento, her voice is now considered a voiceover, and what she verbalizes in her voicemail is then visualized on the screen. So it cuts to show the roads and places she is reminiscing about, and as these are being shown, Christine's talking lessens and the music amplitude increases. You can also hear a faint, muffled talking voice in the background. This almost sounds like it could be a conversation or her mother talking, however, it's left unknown, and it serves to deepen the nostalgic aspect that is formed through Christine's voicemail and the shots of her hometown. You can also still hear the traffic noise from New York, and this reminds viewers that this is in fact a voiceover, and she's still talking from New York, even though the screen is portraying Sacramento. And then the voiceover begins to pause, and the music and the scenery shots become the center of attention.
But I wanted to tell you.
The montage closes out with multiple tracking shots from inside Christine's car of Christine and her mother driving, giving the audience members a feeling of completing Christine's journey with her. The close-up frame of Christine and her face portrays her emotions, and it paints her in a vulnerable light, giving viewers a desire to know what she's thinking while she's driving. More emotion is evoked when the shot of Christine driving matches to a shot of her mother driving the same car in the same place. This scene alludes to their inevitable similarities and raises the emotional stakes of their relationship by showing them in parallel viewpoints.
Okay, so the editing here is pretty straightforward. There's matched action between Christine and her mother to signal unity and a parallel between the two, which it then reflects their changed relationship.
The cinematography is also pretty straightforward. We just see Christine and her mother placed in like the same positioning in the same car, driving down the same roads. As you can tell by the windows of the car, you can see that the background, they're driving down the same streets. And this just shows their similarities and like how they are similar even though they've had a lot of conflict throughout the film.
So here the pitch of the music becomes noticeably high, and then the amplitude begins to decrease as her mom is shown driving the car. And then when the shot switches back to Christine driving the car, her voiceover begins again. And this is just to signify that, to draw viewers back into her voicemail and place importance on her message to her mom.
I love you. Thank you. Thank you.
So this is the second longest take of the scene, and it bookends the driving montage, which allows time for the viewers to take a breath after the plethora of short takes, and it allows them to reflect on the narrative and the underlying meaning of the scene.
The mise en scène is just Christine standing again in front of the church. It's closer up so you can see more details. You can see that she's wearing a few necklaces, and it shows the emotion on her face. This framing makes it very personal for the audience in this final clip, and it makes you wonder, like what happens next after this phone call.
Here, Christine's monologue is synchronous again, since her voice is heard as she's visibly talking. She's just thanking her mother for everything and telling her that she loves her. The music fades and finally ends, and then we can hear the sound of her closing her flip phone. We can still also hear the ambient off-screen city traffic noise, and then the movie ends. Lady Bird told the tender and difficult relationship between a mother and daughter and created a cohesive aesthetic throughout the film by utilizing well-thought-out elements of editing, cinematography, sound, and mise-en-scène. Clearly, all of these elements work well together and remain consistent, making the story not only easy to understand, but enjoyable to watch. Ultimately, the combination of these elements moved the narrative along and illustrated to the audience Christine's epiphany about her hometown and her relationship with